As we start thinking about putting our lesson together, we often go to the lesson components, the different parts of the lesson. We know the theme, and so we start looking at what we will do, how we will welcome the kids when they come in. Is there something creative I can do to engage them right from the beginning? And once everyone arrives, what will I do to introduce the theme for today? How can I connect it to the students in a creative way? How will I teach the Bible verse, help them to learn it and understand it? How will I tell the Bible story? I don't want to do it the same way I've always done it. How can I be creative with that? Then applying it to their lives. How can we make sure that the Spirit of God connects to their hearts and that they begin to apply the lesson? And then reviewing, what am I going to do to review the lesson to see if the important things of the lesson were learned? And then what kind of a prayer time am I going to have with them? See, there's lots of different ways to present all these things, and we tend to think of them first as components and then what order we might want to do them. But usually when we try to be creative, what do? Yeah, we do what's easiest for us, what's best for, oh, I love this, so I'm going to do this for them. Because if I learn that way, that's certainly how they're going to learn, right? Yeah, that's not the way it is. We have to look at our learning style as only one of the ways to present information, only one of the ways to receive information and process the information in our minds and then into our hearts. So we want to make sure that we engage all of our students. All of us have different combinations. Today we're going to look at 7 areas of intelligences or learning styles. Each of us have one that we're really comfortable with, and a strong secondary one. And so when you start thinking about the possibility of combinations for all those things, it's amazing. And so when you have students who come into your class, and sometimes 15 or 20 students who arrive, all of them with different learning styles, we can't just teach my learning style. I have to be able to adapt to all the students so that I engage each one. See, it's the responsibility of the teacher to cause learning to happen. I'm the one in charge of that. I have to present information in a way that they can hear it and receive it and apply it to their hearts. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of creativity. Often we want them to sit there, pay attention to me, learn the way I learn, do this the way I do this. And that's not the way that it's going to go. So we have to understand the different learning styles and then see what we can do with God's help to be creative and apply the lesson in the way they can really understand. So let's look at some of these areas of intelligences, these different kind of learning styles. The first one is just in the category of words. Some kids really focus on words. They love listening. They love you to read stories to them. They love writing. They even love speaking. The whole idea of words and how words are put together really intrigues them. So as a teacher, you might read or tell a story, or even think about using a journaling activity or a discussion activity. Have them recite something or try to translate something into their own words, simplifying the message. So words tends to be one of those areas that are very important for some kids. There's another one, music, musical things. You know that some kids just love music. They love hearing the music and the rhythm of the music. They love pitch and the emotional power of music. So sometimes we'll want to teach with a song connected to the lesson. Some kids are creative enough, they'll want to write a little bit of music, write some jingle or even putting music in the room to create a particular mood, or even looking at the words of a particular song. So music tends to be one of those categories that are important for some kids. Other people have a very logical, math-oriented learning style. They're just really good. It's one of the intelligences that really easy for them. So There are kids who just love the numbers. They love that abstract thinking and the logical reasoning, organization, problem solving, sequencing. And so you might want to teach with some, having kids interpret some of the information, make a logical progression, ask them probing questions, a little bit of deep thinking, try to solve a problem together, maybe even build a timeline of the story, because that's just how they work. They love the organizing of the lesson. And then there's some kids that are much more into the art, that's the spatial and the visual. They're very artistic, and they love the drawing, the imagery, the metaphors, the visualization in the mind. So you might want to teach with lots of pictures and posters, maps and videos. They might draw what they understand is going on in the story, some art and craft kind of thing, some diagrams or some symbols. Yeah, that might not be easy for you, but for some of the students in your class, that's the way they process information. If they can take what you've said and put it into a visual representation, they're going to remember it and understand it. There are other kids in your class, and you probably see a lot of them, that are much more into the body, the physical, the movement. So that's another very important category that we can put on there. These kids are athletic. They love to move. They love hand skills and acting and body language. Some even dance, and they have lots of facial expressions. So getting involved in this story, in the activity, is really important for them. So you might want to teach with some skits or drama or role playing. You might want to have some get up and move around, do an active game, build something, do some active learning together. That's a very important learning style. And then there's two others that we don't often think of. And one is called social. They're social learners. So as you look at all of these things, then there's kind of these two categories of social. These kids love working with others. They love the negotiation, the aware of others' needs. They're paying attention to the people around them, team building. And so you might want to teach with some interactive learning, some small groups, maybe doing a service project together, mingling, getting acquainted, talking to your neighbors, sharing ideas, but getting kids connected with one another. And then related to that is self. And this is a strength for some kids who really have a good understanding of themselves. They're a little more introspective. They're kind of self-motivated, and they like to meditate and to think a little more deeply. And so you may want to include in your teaching time some quiet reflection time, some independent study, some one-on-one debrief. Maybe they kind of write down some things that they're thinking and processing about. Some just quiet alone prayer times. So we're all different. And so you can see that with this combination of different learning styles and intelligences, that building a lesson can present a little bit of a challenge for you. So what I used to do in the early days of teaching, when I was trying to address all these different needs, I would begin a lesson by putting a face with each of these things. Who is it in my class that just loves music? They're always singing, and you see them rhythm. Who is that kid? And I would put his picture right up in front of me to make sure that I get something in that lesson that James is going to love. And then that kid who's just a whiz with math. He loves to problem solve, and he loves the logic and the order and the timeline. What am I going to do for her? Make sure that I have something for Bethany in there. And then the one who's so creative, Timothy he's always drawing. Even as I'm talking, he's drawing, he's sketching something, because that's just the way he learns. So do I have something in my lesson that Timothy is really good? So I'll put Timothy's picture in front of me. And then the physical one, that kid that never sits in his chair. And they are always up wanting to move around and touch something, do something. What do I have for that kid? Or am I planning a lesson that is all sitting and paying attention, listening to me? Do I have activities for that kid that loves to be social and connect? And then I have someone who's pretty quiet. They're pretty introspective. And so for Elena, I'll put her picture there to remind me to have something for her as well. So as I began to make my lesson and see those pictures there, maybe even just write their names at the top of your worksheet, and then make sure that you have something in your lesson plan that meets the needs, the learning needs of each of those students. And then we begin to build a lesson that's really diverse, really creative, because it's being expressed and applied in so many different ways, so that I have something for every kid in this room they're going to be able to relate to. Now, it's a stretch for me, because it's not always comfortable for me. It might even take a little more time than I expected. But it's going to be presented in a way that those kids will be able to understand and process. So I hope that as you're considering your lesson plan, that you will also consider the learning styles, the different intelligences of our kids, and try to be creative and present the lesson in the language that your kids understand. And then the application will be so much more powerful because they really learned it and understood it. So I hope this helps and at least gets you thinking and gets you ready for your next time with kids. Let's be creative. Let's speak the language of our kids. Okay?